We'll just start with the task team members themselves, and just to look at the fact that you know what each of them brings to the table and what you think of them. I see that the President has appointed Anton Eberhard, there's Brian Dames, there's Tsakani Mtombeni, there's Sai Gura, there's Javier Stein, there's Franz Baleni, Nick Davis, Busisiwe Vilakazi. What do you make of them?
Well, it's a very impressive, broad-based task team. As you say, I'm very encouraged by this. I think they bring exceptional expertise to the table from a diverse range of backgrounds.
And so are you confident that they're the right people for the job?
I think so. I think looking at them and their skills and their background, definitely it does inspire confidence.
And I see that they've got to, have a report, an initial report ready by the end of January next year.
Indeed.
Isn't that a bit of a short time?
It is tight, but I think there is a bigger plan behind all of this. The plan really is, I do believe, that President Ramaphosa needs to make and announce his plan at the State of the Nation address. This is going to be then followed by the budget, which is going to tell us how to finance this plan, how it's going to be paid for. And then lastly, there's a general election coming up in which Cyril Ramaphosa is seeking a mandate from the public. And I think these are very important steps along the way towards implementing a plan and getting the buy-in from business, from labor, from customers, suppliers, Eskom, and in fact the whole country via the electorate.
So now Eskom has expressed some level of optimism that the problems it's plagued with can be resolved. Would you just give us an idea of the extent of the problems that are plaguing Eskom right now?
Of course, the problems are very significant and they range from strategic planning about the future utility and its role and its structure, through to financial issues, issues of financial sustainability, issues of operational sustainability, supplies of coal, plant performance, and finally through to environmental sustainability. Most of Eskom's power stations do not comply with the environmental regulations of South Africa and can only exist and can only continue to do their work because they've obtained exemptions from the law and the regulations. This means they're not environmentally sustainable. So these are the broad range of problems. Certainly, I do believe that with time, effort and money, the operational issues can slowly be addressed. But when it comes to the financial issues, there are deep problems requiring not just Eskom, but the shareholder and government and the President himself.
So now you've described the situation at Eskom as one that's quite serious, that's quite dire right now. But now given the intervention, or this welcome intervention like you describe it, of this task team, do you think the task that they have ahead of them is a major one? And if so, do you think that these are men and women who are capable of seeing the solutions out?
It is a massive task. Eskom is a monopoly generator of electricity in South Africa. Of all the electricity generated in South Africa, Eskom generates about 95% of it. So the entire economy relies on the success of a utility like Eskom, and not just a utility like Eskom, but the whole electricity supply industry, of which Eskom is a big part. There are big questions about how the future industry needs to operate in terms of its business model, the regulatory processes that it's subject to, and really utilities around the world are facing problems relating to the so-called utility death spiral. But Eskom is also facing what we call a utility debt spiral, where it has to borrow money in order to pay back its debts. And it gets into this cycle of rising costs, rising interest rates, and ever-increasing debt. So these are two big problems. Do I think it can be resolved? I think it's going to require very deep, hard political decisions. A lot of where Eskom is in at the moment is based on ideological reasons. And ideology can only be in place when there is money to pay for it. And when the money runs out, the hard reality kicks in, and ideology sometimes has to be put aside for the hard business decisions that have to be made.
And when you talk about the hard business decisions that have to be made and the political solution, I mean, the CEO was on this, on ENCA just a few days ago, also talking about this political solution that is needed. What, in your view, is that political solution?
Well, just to give one example, Eskom is heavily overstaffed. Eskom itself acknowledges that it's got something like 15,000 staff in excess. This requires political engagement with labour, with management, and with the shareholder itself. And we know how difficult these decisions are, especially with an election coming up. So they are deeply political decisions, and there are others as well. The very structure of Eskom, should it be a vertically integrated monopoly? Should it operate in a competitive environment? How should it be structured? Should it take on additional strategic equity partners? Should it be unbundled? These are massive political decisions.
And I know that we're almost out of time, but I just want to sneak this question in. There's been some different reaction to the minister's press conference that we saw in recent weeks. And one of them has been Ted Blom, who says that the decision to send the senior managers to power stations is disastrous. Do you agree with that?
I think it's not disastrous, it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary that each power station should be accountable for its future, and that people sitting behind computers in head office should be there on the ground facing the real problems. So I don't think it's a disaster. I think it's absolutely essential.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was energy expert Dr. Chris Yelland.